Hey sis.
Who, me? Who, me? Who, me?
Yes, you. Hello. Welcome to the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. I am your host, Jaleesa, and I am so glad you're here. Oh my goodness, y'all. I can't believe I have a podcast. Okay, let me chill. What is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast? I have been thinking and praying about how to really summarize what this podcast is and what I hope that it will be. But all in all, this podcast is my love letter to women. I've spent all of my life really devouring any and every ounce of wisdom I can get from the women around me. I wasn't able to be raised by my own mother. And so I had to really attach myself to the women that God did put in my life, like my Auntie Jessica and my grandma and my stepmom, all who are amazing women who are all very different and unique in their own ways, but all taught me so much. And then I grew up and I became a young woman, moved away from all of the women who raised me. And any opportunity that I had to attach myself to a woman who was older, who had been there, done that, I did. And I sat with them for hours. I had coffee with them. I watched them cook. I watched them take care of their children. As I was becoming a mom, I read books from women and I watched sermons from women and I sat at the feet of women, literally just wanting to know, how do you do this thing called womanhood? I think we all can acknowledge how hard it is to be a woman. I mean, womanhood is such a diverse and complex thing, but in this generation, right? I'm very millennial, 90s baby, and I'm growing up in this generation where there's all of these displays all over social media on what it looks like to be this kind of woman or that kind of woman. And us as millennials, and especially for the generations after us, are having this attachment to womanhood as a niche. So if social media is niche down to one thing, then we subconsciously are seeing our womanhood journey as a niche and we must attach ourselves to one thing and one way. And then I have these conversations with women younger than me, older than me, my age, and the sum of the struggle tends to be the same. Is, what is my purpose? Am I enough? Why me? And I'm always looking for ways to come alongside the women that God has put in within my reach and wanting to really spur on and encourage women. And the Hey Sis Yes You podcast is the sum of all of those things. It is truly my love letter to the women in my life to champion and to spur on and to encourage, because womanhood is your journey, your story. And I'm hoping that when you come to this podcast, you find yourself in some of the stories you hear, that you see your season, past, present, or maybe even future, in some of the women that you hear from. The Hey Sis Yes You podcast is not just a podcast, but really a sisterhood, a community. And I just want to invite you in. So I had this idea, right? This vision, this desire to start a podcast back in 2017, 2018. And I was super hopeful. And I started with my YouTube channel and I had this little segment called Orange Chair Chats. And I posted 2 episodes, recorded a few more that never got out there. Rona hit. I moved to Alabama. I had another baby and just went through so much since then. And it just never happened. And I know it was the Lord that put a pause on it because I needed to grow so much more and mature so much more and endure so much more to be able to be here. And so I'm confidently bringing this to you um, as 31, almost 32-year-old Jaleesa, with much more hardship and experience and joys, high highs, low lows. And because of all of those things that I have had to go through, like in that process, I had my first miscarriage. In those years, I've lost my beautiful mother in law. I lost my dog, who I love so very much. I've moved now to 2 different states, and we have helped tend to and take care of and raise other family members We have taken financial hits. We have sold houses and started new businesses and just have had a lot of, as I said, high highs and low lows. And so I feel like my passion for women is stronger than ever before because my womanhood journey has taken so many shifts and turns that I could have never foreseen. And it has made me so much stronger. But in that strength, I feel the desire to like reach out my hand to lift up a sister. Ecclesiastes says, two are better than one, for if one falls, the other is there to lift him up. That is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. So I feel like I'm going to just be telling you guys different stories that summarize this podcast. So I hope that it all comes together and all makes sense. And all in all, that my heart is shared with you all. So, one of the things, when I was wanting to start a podcast, I just thought I'd get a camera and a microphone and just chat because I love to chat with women. But it didn't feel right to just sit in front of a camera and just talk because, like I said, all of my life has been the sum of all of the women that God has placed before me and the ways that I've learned from them and listened to them and gauged from their wisdom and their stories. So I was reading in Exodus one day, and there's this portion of scripture where Moses has to go up on a hill, and his signal to the Israelites is his arms being up. And they know when he drops his arms that they can go into battle. But as long as his arms are held up, they needed to stay put because it's not safe. Well, he took Aaron and Hur, two of his homeboys, up on the mountain with him. And there comes this part where Moses' arms grow tired and they begin to fall. Now, mind you, if he drops his arms, the Israelites believe that they're safe to go into battle. So, him dropping his arms prematurely could literally lead them to ruin. Well, as his arms begin to fall, the scripture says that Aaron and Hur come alongside him, one on each side, to hold up his arms. And Israel was safe because of that. All of Israel, the entire nation was safe because of that. And not because Moses was just an incredible leader who accomplished his task, but Moses was an incredible leader who surrounded himself with people who were able to see him through, who were able to help him fulfill his role and his duty as the leader of Israel at the time. Reading that portion of scripture, and I was like, whoa, this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a woman who comes alongside other women and holds up their arms, helps them accomplish that which God has set before them to accomplish. I want to be a woman who comes alongside other women and is like, hey, I see you growing weary, but I got you. And that is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast, a place where you can come and hopefully glean from the stories of myself and other women. And just like Moses needed Aaron and Hur, I pray that this podcast has the same effect on you. That if you feel weary, you can come sit here and you can listen or watch and you can feel like, oh, though my arms were falling down, I just heard this story or this good word from my sister. Now I feel more able to hold my arms up and to complete my task. So that was, one moment where I really started to get clarity on what this podcast is, like the verse in Ecclesiastes and the moment in Exodus with Moses and the way that his friends surrounded him and helped him. And so I've been asking the Lord, like, I have this passion, this zeal, like, what do I do with this? And in ways he continued to show me, like, there's this time, right? My son, who was 6 at the time, we had just moved to Alabama and he was really having fun with all the little creepy crawly things that he could find. He comes in the house and he has this handful of worm things. I thought they were like maggots. They looked nasty to me. They just looked like little germ carriers. And he was like, look, mommy. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is disgusting. Go take those outside and show me where you found them so I could put bleach in the hole. And he was so upset, like appalled. My guy was like, mommy, why would you want to do that? He said to me, these are just like little grubs, like caterpillars. And if you can help me create the right environment for them and we can feed them everything that they need to have the nutrients that they need, they will become beautiful butterflies. And we did, right? We ordered the butterfly cage, we fed them the leaves, we watched them. We watched them go from these little nasty looking things to these really cute, chubby little caterpillars, inching their way up, eventually wrapping themselves in their cocoon. And one by one, they started to emerge as these beautiful butterflies. And in that process, I learned so much about myself. And really, it felt like, okay, wait, this is womanhood. This process that I just watched is the journey of womanhood. Let me explain to you a little bit further. So, one, I saw them for the nasty little things that they were. At the moment, he was able to see them for what they would become, what God intended them to become. I was talking to my friend Hannah, and she was like, what a blessing to be able to see something for what it will become and not just what it is right now. And I thought to myself, how often are women thrown to the side, discredited, taken advantage of, unheard, because nobody is capable of seeing them in the full picture, in the fullness of glory that God has set out for them to be? How can I be one of those women that surrounds other women and loves them right where they're at? And like Noah, is eager to nurture them until we see the full picture. That is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. Then there was this moment, right, when they're in their cocoons. And I was fascinated. I went to go look every single day. And some of them started to like leak out. And I asked my husband, like, what is happening there? Like, that looks disgusting. And he was like, well, you know that when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, it like becomes nothing. It's just liquid. And I was like, wait, what? He was like, yeah, it's almost like God needs it to become nothing so that he can knit it back together as the thing that it was intended to be. But the ones that are leaking out, they didn't make it. Their cocoon was not strong enough to withhold the metamorphosis process. So they're leaking out. They're not going to make it to the end. I was so flabbergasted because is that not womanhood? There are so many things that happen in our lives that make us feel completely depleted, like completely pushed and turned to nothingness. And I don't want to see my sisters stay there. I don't want to see my sisters leak out of the cocoon. And so I'm asking the Lord, Lord, help me to help women build their cocoon strong enough so that they make it through the end. That is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. I reached out to dozens of incredible women to join me on this endeavor, sit with me, and let me chat with them about what their womanhood journey looks like. They're different ages, different ethnicities, different economic classes. They have been through many different things. And I pray that as we come together, we can be a part of the wrapping of your cocoon so that if you've endured any of the things that we will be talking about, no matter what it may be, I pray that you hear your story on this podcast and it feels like you wrapped your cocoon a little bit tighter so that whatever you're going through, you are safe and surrounded and you don't have to leak out. That is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. So yeah, I think all in all, my heart is that this podcast is a place where women can come and sit and feel heard and feel seen. This is an interview style podcast, so it will be seldom that you have episodes like this where I am just sitting here talking. Like very rarely, because I don't like doing this. This has actually been awful for me because I just want to have a woman before me having a good conversation. And I'm so grateful that the Lord has just given women a desire to join me in this. I mean, you guys, we're going to have some incredible, incredible guests on here. Women who have just fought the good fight, women who had just overcome low lows, women who are currently in high highs after low lows, women who are you and you are them. Um, I was talking to my husband about why it's so important to me that this be an interview style podcast. And I was thinking of, this concept of I'm every woman. And I told him, but I'm not. I am humble enough to know that I have not been through everything, seen everything, endured everything. And so I can't comfortably just pick up a microphone and talk about everything pertaining to womanhood. But I know so many incredible women. God has given me the privilege of connecting to so many incredible women over my life. And they have been through so many diverse things and they have so many unique stories. And I just want to sit and talk with them. And my hope for my Instagram, right? When I was wanting to do YouTube, just for my social media presence, is that women can just come and they can find a place for themselves there. And I am praying that you come to this podcast, whether it be YouTube or on audio, and you find your story somewhere. And that's why it's so important to me to hear from you guys. So throughout this process, like I want you to send me DMs, send me emails, tell me like what it is that is on your heart. What is your struggles? What are your questions? What are your concerns? I am going to have college age girls on here and teenage girls on here and elderly women on here. So many diverse women so that you can find yourself here, um, whoever you are and whatever you're going through. And so please like reach out. I think I've always been like such a communal person. I've always been somebody who really like loves to do life with other people. I've always been somebody who wants to hear your story and know like what life is like for you and gauge, with women in their unique journeys. And this is it. This is like the sum of it. And I'm so excited. Like, y'all don't even know. Like, I have prayed for you. Like, I have prayed, I have fasted, I have sought the Lord for this. I have truly taken my time to get here because I wanted this to be worth your time. I wanted this to be something that you could be proud of, that you could leave an episode or listen while you're cooking or on the treadmill or watch it while you're folding laundry on YouTube and leave like proud to be who you are, proud to be a woman, proud to know women, proud to do life with women. God is just so good that He sees us, you know? He saw the need for us. When you read Genesis and you see that He made Adam and it was not good for him to be alone. And so He created woman because there was a need. Woman is a multiplier. Woman is like God's gift to the world. I want to see women empowered. I want to see women encouraged. I want to see women come together. I want to see women with their heads high and their hearts soft. I want to see women thrive. And that is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. So each week you will get an episode of this podcast, and every episode is prayed over. Every interview is prayed over. Like when I opened this microphone, I prayed over this microphone. Like when I opened my webcam, I prayed over my webcam. Like when I was going to make a phone call, I'm getting emotional. But when I was going to make a phone call to talk to a woman about if she would be willing to join me, I prayed for her. I prayed over that call. I prayed over that time. And before every interview, I'm praying. Um, this is not something that is just, I purchased a microphone on Amazon and I just want you to hear me talk. Like, no, this is truly my heart put on the internet in the form of a podcast. This is really my heart, y'all. And I hope that you feel that when you listen in, when you tune in. This episode is going to be short because, like I said, it's just an intro and I'm just wanting you to hear my heart on what this podcast is about. Um, but I hope you come back. Next week, we're going to have an incredible guest. We're going to talk about her story and her journey and the ways that the Lord has truly just been working things together, even the hard things. We're going to talk about being able to see God in the ugly parts of your story. We're going to talk about, deciding. Like, I have decided and I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. We're going to talk about the grit of woman and the strength of woman. And I'm super excited for you guys to hear her, to listen to her story. So many of you guys already know and love her just like I do. So make sure you come back. Make sure you come back for that episode. You won't regret it. I'm also just super looking forward to um, each week because how different the stories are. And I'm excited to just like for women to see other women unite with like no negative energy. I'm excited for you guys to just laugh with us and cry with us because y'all know one thing about me is I'm a cry. Okay, I'm gonna cry every time There is not even any like I have no ability to front or to pretend. Um, I'm such an emotional person when it comes to stories, like hearing and engaging with and coming into a story with someone, but particularly with another woman. And so y'all gonna get all these tears, okay? Um, but all in all, I hope when you come back to this podcast next week and the week after and the week after and the week after, you come back knowing that two truly are better than one. For when one falls, the other is there to pick them up. You come back feeling like, man, I was tired like Moses on that hill. My arms were getting ready to drop, but in came my sisters alongside me, holding them up so that I can accomplish the task. I hope that when you come back to this podcast, no matter what part of your journey you are in. Maybe you're that weird looking little worm phase. Maybe you're the cute little chunky caterpillar phase. Maybe you're currently inching your way to a cocoon. Maybe you are in the cocoon and you are slowly being depleted. And you feel like you're in the season of emptiness and nothingness. Maybe you are getting knit together as this thing that you were supposed to be. Maybe you are ready to emerge. Maybe you have just emerged and figuring out how to use your wings and fly and soar beautifully like God has always intended you to be. Whatever part of that journey you are in, I hope that you come here every week and you feel spurred on to make it to the next step. That is the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. And I pray that when you come here, that you, sis, yes, you, feel seen and loved and encouraged. I'll see you next week.